So this is one of the more absolutely appallingly frustrating stories I've come across recently. There never seems to be a shortage of them. Long story short, there's a lady who seems to be quite literally trying to force an aquarium in Texas to relinquish a giant Pacific octopus because it attacked her son. Or more specifically, the animal held on to her son with its suction cups, leaving some crazy looking bruises, but otherwise causing no serious harm to the boy. Now, I find this story interesting because it really perfectly demonstrates the true motives behind the campaigns of a lot of so-called animal rights activists on social media. One wonders, do they really care deeply about these animals, or are they just eating up the attention and potential financial gain for themselves? You'll find out what the obvious answer is in this specific case. To quickly recap, Brittany Tarrant, a former teacher and now supposed actress/model, is the mother of 6-year-old Leo, an avid animal enthusiast, according to his mother. On July 14th, 2025, the pair made a visit to the San Antonio Aquarium, as they've done numerous times before, every week for 3 years, according to Tarrant. You might be familiar with the touch tanks that aquariums often have. They usually contain horseshoe crabs, sea urchins, and other slow-moving invertebrates, as well as stingrays. Those are often popular additions. Now you might find it shocking that this particular aquarium had a large octopus that the public was allowed to touch. I've never heard of such a thing, and that seems to be a big part of the controversy. But hey, it sounds like an incredible experience. This aquarium seems to have animal encounters as its main feature. They also charge for interactions and feedings with lemurs, sloths, stingrays, and numerous others, including the octopus. It seems like the aquarium unfortunately allowed the public to feed the octopus live crayfish, which I think is incredibly messed up. The octopus tank has high sides, but there are steps on the side to allow kids to look down into it. Brittany had taken her son to see this animal before without incident. Her son had the unique opportunity to interact with such a cool animal, and presumably, both had nary a thought of animal rights in their heads. But, on that fateful day in July, the octopus, named Cthulhu, held on to Leo a little too tightly. The mother had permitted Leo to see and contact the octopus when no staff were present. The aquarium has claimed that signs say not to do this, while Brittany retorted that this was a lie. After combing through numerous videos, I cannot see any signs that say something like this. I can, however, say that it seems that the two-finger touch rule appears to be a general rule for almost all of the animals at the facility that are allowed to be touched. I think common sense would cause someone to conclude that this would apply to the octopus and that you shouldn't hold on to its tentacles or let it crawl on you. Here's one video where a child seems to be interacting with the animal in a proper manner. Okay, so this is an update. Well, after I started this video, it seems as though a sign does say that only a two-finger touch is allowed. However, Taryn claims in one video that the sign is new, but in another one she says that the sign is, quote, still there, implying it was there before.
The only signage provides instruction for a feeding encounter. Still had the sign up encouraging you to interact with this octopus.
And he put his hand in to do a two-finger touch, which they say is what you should do.
And I can make out this particular sign in one of the older videos I found, which is at an angle, so that's why I couldn't find it. So I'm not sure what the truth is in this case. Anyway, therefore, when Cthulhu latched onto Leo, they had to call for help, and finally, 3 staff members helped to pry him free from the boy. However, Leo was left with bruises that resembled the circles elite athletes get from a pseudoscientific therapy called cupping. The mother didn't seek medical assistance for her son, so it seems that the marks were not perceived as serious. In fact, according to Taryn, Leo thinks this is one of the coolest experiences of his entire life. It's unfortunate that the situation didn't just end there, and Leo could just continue to have an enjoyable experience at this facility for the foreseeable future. Sometimes animal interactions go wrong, because animals are not inanimate objects and they are subject to acting in ways we don't prefer. If even humans screw up on occasion, why expect anything different from a conscious animal? Anyone going into an interaction with an animal needs to absorb this. However, not only did Brittany Tarrant take to her TikTok in full makeup to describe the harrowing experience and express that the facility should have better safety protocols, such as staff present by the tank, but apparently now she's in cahoots with PETA to free Cthulhu from his 1,000-gallon aquarium home. She's proclaimed to her TikTok fans that she's receiving information from activists, including claims that the animal has dementia due to its age. She has expressed support for PETA, stating that they have the resources to help her achieve her goal.
And I researched the things that people have against them, and I get that. There are legitimate reasons not to work with PETA. However, someone reached out to me and they successfully had gotten their Sequest and local aquarium shut down, and those animals rescued through PETA and their lawyer. So I did send an email out today after we got back from the river to that specific lawyer within PETA.
While Taryn has suggested she doesn't agree with every position PETA undertakes, I cannot find that she has publicly objected to PETA's demands to shut the entire facility down. So when did "please make the aquarium safer for children" turn into "octopuses don't belong in captivity"? Well, I think we can safely take a guess here. When Taryn's video went viral, well exceeding her usual under 2,000 view count on TikTok, she now seems to be trying to make herself the face of octopus liberation. This is all despite her having returned to the aquarium after the incident to see the same octopus. I would love to see a new bill in Congress protecting cephalopods since they are sentient, she told her viewers on TikTok. She also exclaimed that she doesn't want this to be about her and her son anymore, but that "I want it to be about animal rights." Of course, PETA does what PETA does. They wait for a sensationalistic headline, or they create one themselves, and then they pounce, calling for an end to an animal-related practice, and this time it's touch tanks. They claim that it's only a matter of time until another kid gets hurt, but we all know that's not what really matters to them. PETA doesn't want any zoos to have touch tanks. In fact, PETA simply just doesn't want any zoos. They're for the most part transparent about this. Taryn, on the other hand, her so-called advocacy seems to extend as far as there are opportunities for her to be interviewed, feel relevant, and rack up views and followers while posting relentlessly about the same topic.
Leo and I were interviewed on the news yesterday, and then today, this morning, I had an interview for a written article as well. So thank you all for getting the news's attention. Still on mission Save the Octopus, but we're now on mission Save all the animals. Our next step is to get San Antonio as outrage as all of TikTok is. We're just interviewed by Good Morning America. I'm in shock.
She even includes a video where she's referring to her son being called a starseed, with some supernatural connection to animals in the octopus rabbit hole section of her TikTok. A comment she clearly loved, even though she's pretending to critique it after being called out over its supposed racist origins. Once again, I have to drop in to add that, well, after I started this video, I just kept finding things. I thought the anthropomorphism was bad enough until I found Taryn, who I thought was reasonably level-headed, taking a psychic reading about her son seriously. Psychics are, let's face it, all liars, and many of them are obvious grifters, so I can get the mutual respect they seem to have for each other. And oh boy, is this stuff a trip.
We have had a psychic reach out to us. She did a reading on the pictures of my son and the octopus.
First of all, he really did recognize Leo. I kept asking yes or no questions. I was like, did you grab him because you were anxious? He said yes, and I could feel the anxiety go through my body, especially in my chest, just loud, like or a big room that has no furniture and it just echoes, and that's all he hears all day. Like I hear that in my head. When I asked if he tried to pull Leo in, he said no. The pendulum said no. I asked, was he trying to ask Leo for help? He says that Leo talks to him through his energy. Turned white because he knew he could come, and actually he was very embarrassed and felt terrible. Like I started crying. I am sensing it's not just the craziness of the enclosure. I'm nearing senescence, which is like when the octopus dies because he has lived beyond what a typical lifespan in the wild would be. And then I'm going to try not to cry when I say this. I asked him if he wanted to say anything else to Leo. I'm nearing the end of my life. I'll never forget you, Starseed. He is able to communicate with the animals, voices of them in his head. For him, he picks up on energy.
Yeah, so I certainly did not realize I was dealing with this level of not being in reality. And folks, this is the type of person we have embracing animal rights ideas and trying to coerce a zoo into relinquishing its octopus or even getting the whole place shut down.
So here's where I kind of land. I don't reject the idea that some people feel called to something deeply spiritually to help this world. And I also don't dismiss the idea that my son does have a connection to nature and animals. I do deeply feel like my son is connected with animals.
I am an incredibly scientific-minded person that likes evidence and evidence-based research.
Like, he has something special within him. We don't need a racist, crazy, right-pilled word to describe it.
And then even more shockingly, there's a video where she is declaring that her son has ADHD, which she calls his superpower, despite him having had no diagnosis.
So when I started telling people I thought my oldest son was autistic before the age of 1, people looked at me like I was crazy. But I knew as soon as he came out that he was not neurotypical. People all over were saying how incredibly bright he was, incredibly smart, incredibly intuitive, incredibly empathetic, and that's not what people see as autistic.
She referred to him as gifted because he was seen talking to ducks by a swimming pool and saving bugs. And she has pushed the narrative that the octopus was crying out to her son for help with its actions. So now she's trying to use her son, who refers to the octopus as his octopus.
Theo's goal in all of this has been to make his octopus have a better rest of its life.
To gain clout as well, promoting him as some kind of young, spiritually connected Dr. Dolittle. Let's also talk about the fact that she makes some little quip about someone else's child supposedly mistreating the octopus because of these teensy little splashes they make in the underwater animal's direction.
If you only look at social media, you would think that was probably true. Listen, Leo would have never, ever splashed the octopus or treated it like this.
Yet there's a clip of her son lifting the animal's entire leg out of the water. Yeah, she clearly thinks she and her offspring are vastly superior to the rest of us. People don't seem to find her so interesting when she's not talking about this octopus sun suctioning event. So does this incident for her have a silver lining, or is the entire cloud painted in gold? Because her sudden advocacy makes zero sense. If Taryn objects to the living conditions of the octopus, why does she suddenly realize this after her son was injured? When her son was bruise-free, the same living conditions were acceptable. While forcing herself into this complex conversation, it is apparent that she did not initially investigate the facility she visited, but is now lecturing the general public. And what's worse, she seems to be trying to train her son to adopt anti-zoo views when he clearly isn't interested and wants to keep going to the aquarium.
You understand why maybe we shouldn't go there?
Because they'll make more money so that they can keep it.
I'm just wondering if you understand, because I know that you're upset that we shouldn't go to the aquarium.
Because all my friends are there.
I know.
I'm gonna try to help you, buddy.
She was like scared and she was like in my head. I couldn't stop singing about her.
Do you understand why it isn't okay that she's in that aquarium?
Because she's getting pet and she might attack somebody else.
But do you think we should still go to the aquarium? Even though we know now that it's not, like, a place that treats our animals very good?
The animals there might miss me, so yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Lemurs never get to see the sunshine.
Oh, yeah. And they need, the ring-tailed lemurs need to gaze in the sunshine every morning.
Do they?
Yeah, that's what they do. Not taking care of them, in where their habitats look.
I think the penguins, first of all, have a habitat that looks like their habitat.
It's not cold and stuff.
It's not cold, and even the penguins, just for one. A lot of the birds are not in a great habitat because they're outside in the Texas heat and they're not supposed to be in the heat.
Yeah, they can overheat and die.
Hey Taryn, if Leo has a special connection with animals and can even communicate with them, why did he fail to sense that they are supposedly suffering and dying in the heat? Did she investigate the people and groups who are feeding her all this information about the San Antonio Aquarium and other zoos? Yes, the zoo is not accredited by the AZA. However, this is nowhere near a requirement to have reasonable animal care standards. And here is a clip taken by another TikTok user in 2016 at the Houston Zoo in response to the incident. You can clearly see similar behavior and that the octopus enjoys the interaction. There's this clip of a marine biologist on the news making a very reasonable comment about how all animals misbehave at times, that she of course doesn't like.
You know, just like our pets at home will sometimes act in ways that we don't expect.
I think that's cool and super important, and no hate to this scientist. But I do feel like his interview, or at least the clip of it, was super invalidating and kind of gave credibility to this aquarium. And that was disappointing.
While Taryn claims that she has now been educated about the situation and has taken accountability for her ignorance, there is never a logical reason given for why she wants the octopus moved from one captive tank to another. She is coming off as vindictive against the aquarium for their refusal to directly reply to her when the situation began.
First of all, I am going to be a menace, and I'm not going to let this go away now. There are big players involved now. I don't want to share too much about that because I don't want them to see this coming. So yeah, people are still going to this aquarium and making light of our situation. Many of my friends have called to cancel their membership, and also a lot of my friends will like bring it up in casual conversation around San Antonio, and the people they bring it up to will be like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this happened. I've canceled my membership. I am so glad this mom is speaking up, without even realizing that mom that they were talking to knew me personally.
I don't know much about giant octopus care, so I sure as heck know she knows jack about it. But as someone who has considered owning a cephalopod before, from what I can see, the animal has plenty of room. There are, of course, some critics who know nothing about animals who think it is abusive to have touch tanks, obviously projecting their own feelings of aversion to human touch onto an animal. There's no reason to even begin to assume that this invertebrate is bothered by being touched, when in fact, it located itself close to the edge of the tank, right smack dab by the little kid's stairs, and attempted to explore the boy even further. People are so quick to declare that octopuses are highly intelligent, yet they'll also believe they aren't smart enough to hide from unwanted contact to support their anti-captivity narrative. Grabbing onto a subject is not evidence that the animal is in distress by the subject. I would go as far as to say the octopus obviously enjoys the encounters, while other touch tank inhabitants like crabs and echinoderms probably couldn't care less. Hell, she even admits that the octopus wanted to contact her son. So when it comes to her son, the octopus, as confirmed by the psychic, reached out to Leo. But everyone else is just bothering it all day. It's just so interesting how the story changes to serve her purposes.
Why, like, I know octopuses are escape artists, why isn't it not, like, gotten out? And he's like, it's very well fed, it doesn't want to get out. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. Another thing I want to clarify is, my son is aware of how you should handle animals, and especially like octopuses, and he is not, a lot of you said this was the octopus's revenge now that it's larger. He doesn't ever like try to get this octopus and like manhandle it. He lays his hand in the water and the octopus comes to him. Like he will like maybe touch it gently and like just place his hand on it, and it comes out for him. Like we will watch people like try to like pry it off or like try to get to it, and it like will go. And yes, this tank does have areas where you cannot reach it. As soon as my son's hand hits the water, the octopus always comes out from wherever it is and comes to him.
And then you have octopuses behaving the same exact way in other zoos and aquariums.
She eats really good, about 7% of her body weight a week. This is definitely here just for the interaction. This is a good enrichment for them because they're using their muscles, they're using their senses. Each sucker senses the chemicals in your skin. Pretty much she can sense the taste of your skin. It's almost a sensation of a bonding with the animal.
The most likely outcome of this situation is that after Taryn's son got to have his experience that she admits he loved, no one else will be able to. I think perhaps this encounter should have been reserved for older children and up. Regardless, these types of incidents just result in everyone being prohibited from experiencing these animals in any way other than from behind glass. I just wanted to point out that this is a painfully obvious grift, and no one should take it seriously. There are just way too many influencers and wannabe influencers using animal rights to further their fame. They'll latch on to any cause that attracts their views and attention. At least the PETA nuts genuinely believe in their radicalism. There's just something extra insidious about people who feign the appearance of actually caring about something so they can feed off of others' somewhat genuine concern. Don't fall for it.